So who the fuck decided the brain sees in 24 FPS?
Scientists.
Just some random scientist? Does he have like an eye for film, or is he's like, just about right?
I think it has to do with motion blur.
Okay.
I don't know how they figured that out.
Yeah, isn't it subjective? Like, how do they figure out 24 frames per second? Like, what test is ran for that?
It sounds like the same, like who decided blue is blue?
Well, that's a whole different.
No, I think it's the same thing though.
But 24 frames is they show you 23 frames and people go, yeah, it was still there. And then at 26 frames, I think.
Like the whatever they were seeing disappeared?
Oh, like you put like one still frame of something else in?
Yeah.
And if you see it, then you're seeing in that. But if it's
more than 24.
Okay.
I just don't think they take into account that I'm built different.
They probably don't.
Yeah. They probably have them like scientists with some weak eyes in there, you know? Not someone who's drinking water and cranberry juice like me.
Smooth brain, man.
I feel like measuring stuff like that is semi-pointless. Like that feels like a college gig where it's like, let's figure it out. But
Yeah.
is it used for anything specific? I mean, I guess you're
It's used
explaining
for
how it's
film.
used in cameras of like, oh, well, you see in that, so we'll put it in that. But
What's interesting is we want better. Like we
Yeah.
see 30 and we're like, that's cool.
yeah, 60 is weird. 60 is like an uncanny valley.
60 is
But-
just to slow it down to 30. If you put out something in 60, can kook, dude.
But you do, like, people do that all the time. Like, that's what a soap opera is, right? Isn't the whole deal about a soap opera is that it's shot in 60 frames per second?
I
And
think
that's why it looks so different?
Oh, is it?
I think that's part of the thing.
They should stop doing
Unless I'm
that.
super wrong.
I
Might
like
be
that
wrong.
it's different though, because like the media that we consume is different than real life. So
Mhm.
why are we trying to make it look exactly the same?
Well, it's just a matter of cinematic versus like hyper. Maybe we do see in 30 and 24 is slower. I don't know. I might be
I don't
fucking
know.
holding up.
I feel like 60 frames per second, if that's what a soap opera shot in, and that's why it looks a little different. And I know there was some movies that were shot in 60 frames a second that was a big deal because they're like, whoa, you're going to put a movie out in 60 frames a second? But it almost makes it more dreamlike. Like dreams are almost 60 frames a second.
Or like buttery smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Buttery smooth dreams.
Sports are like 120 frames or like even up to like 140.
That makes sense. Football looks different. When you're watching football on
Yeah.
a nice TV that can keep up with it on like the refresh rate,
'Cause you
it
kinda
looks
see it.
super different.
So what doesn't make any sense to me is that we're being told that our brains see in 24 FPS, but like the difference in quality is extremely noticeable when
Mhm.
you up the frames per second.
Mm.
So like we obviously notice the difference. Can we take in 100% of the difference? Apparently not.
But that's what I was saying to Gregory too when you stepped out of here is like somebody in high school told me very incorrectly that they're like, oh, your game doesn't need to run anything higher than 30 because like you can't see faster than 30 frames a second. Like I absolutely don't want my game running at 30 frames a second. It needs to run at 60 at least.
Yeah.
Or else it's going to look like garbage.
Exactly.
Like I don't understand how how it doesn't make sense.
I was doing some Photoshop at work today and
Mhm.
I was just making people skinny. It's a bad feeling. It's bad because the A/B test, you go, damn, they look good.
Mhm.
Do you show them the final work without telling them you made them skinnier, or is that part of
Yo,
the
you
job?
don't tell them you made them skinny. They just
Okay.
go, you're great at photography. And you go, I know, right?
Dude, I spent like 60 minutes. That's an hour. I spent like an hour or two like trying to make my face look perfect in a photo. And I got to the end, I'm like, this is nasty. Like, this isn't me. Like, why would I do this to myself? Then I just deleted it.
Yeah.
It is a weird, you get so addicted to it so quick.
Yeah, seriously.
If I show you an A/B of your face and make it perfect, you'd be like, damn. I need to go to
I'm gonna be
surgery.
upset. I'm gonna be like, I like that.
Yeah.
Like I want to stay that way. It's not gonna feel nasty to me. Well, what were you using to tune your face up? Were you using like Facetune?
Nah, I was using Photoshop. And I was
Okay.
going through
Okay.
and like with like a paintbrush and a clone tool and like trying to get everything looking like right, you know?
I feel like that's just what you'd look like with makeup on.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, like makeup does wonders.
Do you know it does more than makeup?
Photoshop.
Photoshop.
Yeah,
I think it's my life calling, actually.
you'd make people really hot. You've
It's
got
'cause
a good eye for that.
It's just the skin, dude. I would
Mhm.
just be like, that needs to get right. And I'll sit here until it does. It's the one thing I like won't leave alone.
Why don't you do that? You should start. What you do is you just go on Instagram, you find people's photos who aren't photoshopped, you Photoshop their photo for free, and then you message it to them and say, hey, if you want me to keep doing this for you, Like, here's my rate. And you just do that to a bunch of people until it's your career.
Hey, you could be prettier, so let's be real here. Like, that'd be really fucked up.
It would be fucked up, but like that's people do that.
I think people, they'd pay for it.
And I think people would be like stoked, be like, wow, like you did a great job.
Do you want that to be your contribution to the universe, though?
I've been thinking a lot about what you do. Is it okay to feed the beast?
Mm-hmm.
That sentence was tough.
No, that's feeding the beast, though, absolutely. And
Right.
the beast is like works at a very specific, kind of volatile frequency in a way. And at surface level, it's fine. Like you don't really notice it at surface level until you kind of get into doing it. Like when I was into editing my face and I was done, I'm like, that's when you recognize that it's icky.
You're like, this is ick. Yeah.
This dopamine that I'm getting isn't right. It's not rooted in like a wholesome thing.
It's like being a Ben and Jerry's taste maker, flavor designer. It's like you're doing something that's going to make someone smile and really happy, but you are like ultimately feeding the beast.
Well, how do you weigh that against it also, though, being a passion of yours?
That's the thing. I don't know.
I think you would like it.
I think
But
I would really like it.
the only thing that would steer you away from it would be the feeding the beast, because I think you would be very aware of that. But you would also just be having fun and making a living having fun, which is there's inherent value in that.
Right.
Because you're not hurting anybody else, but you are feeding the beast.
Yeah. It's weird when you're not hurting someone, but you're feeding. Like advertising is another one of like, I think advertising is really fun, but want is like the worst. Consumption's awful.
Yeah, consumption's nasty.
Because it doesn't just hurt us, it hurts everything. Like the whole material universe getting ripped apart for it. Yeah, dude, but like a new t-shirt, you're like, ooh.
You're looking fresh today with that new t-shirt.
Thank you, dude. Brewers Guild.
Fever dreams.
Oh.
Whoa. Have you been having them?
I had one last week, and I have like a couple like reoccurring ones. I had a new one last week, which is weird, and I don't even really remember it that well. But my fever dreams, there's certain geometry that really scares me. And I was wondering if you guys had a similar experience. So the world's like this three-dimensional, like kind of cream white plane. And everything in the world besides the sun is made out of tiny vibrating triangles that are like a gray to black color. You guys seen Geometry Dash? The game?
Yeah.
Play it? Like everything's like vibrating triangles and shapes, but specifically triangles. But the sun is this big black circle. And everything is like slowly vibrating and like picking itself up and then like dropping down. Like a gravity, like I don't even know what it's called. Everything at the same time is up, down, up, down. And it keeps on getting up higher and higher and higher until we get sucked into the sun. And then everything flips. Now we're on a three-dimensional black plane with gray and white triangles, and the sun is white. And there's like this extreme feeling of anxiety during the flip and the change. And it's because of like, I don't know exactly why, but like I have this weird theory. Go ahead.
Oh, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Until you said, and then it flips. And that's when I'm upset. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, that's because that's going to be good.
I have had that
field
dream.
day with that.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like it's a flip and it's a change that upsets me. And and I can't, in the fever dream, I do not have the ability to like relax and be like, oh, it's going to be all right. Like it's just shapes and like weird abstract things happening.
Yeah.
But it's like this big change and it feels like the universe is recreating itself and I'm getting destroyed in that process. Then I come out on the other side of it and I'm just like a different entity.
What's interesting is that you find it unpleasant on both sides, which I think is a real important thing to discuss.
Well, it's almost like it almost sounds like the whole dream is an experience of change, where it's like you have the direct experience of change in your dream, and usually just change is the uncomfortable part. But it's almost like the whole experience the whole time is change.
Because it's the gravity of the triangles getting smashed down to the ground and brought closer to the sun. It's like the anticipation of change, which in itself is a very changing sort of experience. It's like Superman, the Man of Steel, when I think it's like Lex Luthor came and like started crushing New York City and basically just picking everything up and smashing it down and like terraforming. That's what these triangles and then my whole 3D dimension was getting terraformed. And I've had this weird fever dream since I was like So as long as I can remember, I have no idea.
I'm trying to equate it to like waves. Because I use the metaphor that being behind the wave, no matter which way it's going, just getting f***ed. So like you have to get ahead of the change to enjoy it. And if you're behind the change, you're not going to enjoy it.
I think where that analogy would apply to my dreams is that I'm in constant fear of getting sucked into this big old booty hole sun when I should be diving in the booty hole.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I feel like if you vibed out with it, you'd be like, okay, we're slamming, and it's like it's time to jump. And it's like you jump up with it, and like you're doing this whole thing like it's almost like
I'm not fighting the frequencies.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of going with it.
yeah.
But it's a fever dream. So like I've never been able to control a fever dream in my life. I can lucid dream, but to lucid fever dream,
Uh-huh.
that's something out of a movie.
Do you have fever dreams?
I do.
I see. Like, I don't think I have. I'm sure I've had fever dreams, but my dreams are always consistently very connected to my regular reality. Like I don't I have dreams that my reality is abstract, but it's rooted in the same base as like our regular reality here. Like the landscapes and the things around me are things that are familiar but different. But it's not just like triangles or geometry. But I'm interested if you have like another totally third option here.
No, I think geometry is probably the highest form of fever dream. Mine's somewhere between the two, but fever dream just feels like a more potent dream. So whatever you have normally, it's like amped up a level.
Yeah.
Mhm. I feel like you live in fever dreams sometimes. Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I live at a high frequency, and I don't mean that in a good way.
It's a very intense frequency, no
Yeah.
doubt.
My fever dreams, I think, usually do manifest themselves as like false awakening dreams, where it's almost becomes hyper realistic. But I am very aware that I'm dreaming, but I have no control over the direction that dream's going to take. Like it's not a lucid, like, okay, I'm going to do this now. It's like I'm here and I'm pretty much along for the ride, where I'm like having thoughts in the dream, but my awareness is like a passenger to the whole thing happening. So my awareness is like your conscious experience right now is a dream, but like f you if you think you're going to get out of it or wake up or change it, like you're in it now. And it's like that's always been uncomfortable. And then what was really uncomfortable is the false awakening part, where I feel like my jumping through the sun is waking up again in the dream.
Okay.
And because I can tell it's about to happen. So I'm like, oh, I'm finally gonna wake up for real. And then I'll wake up again in the dream. And I'm like definitely fighting the whole experience.
And you're not, is it uncomfortable or scared?
It's both.
Okay.
It's like it's uncomfortable and scared. The scary part for me, the first time this happened was when we were visiting our friend Julia up in Slow, and I was sleeping on a couch, and it was like after a big drinking night. I was supposed to drive us all to get like breakfast burritos the next day. And I kept false awakening like on this couch to the point where I was like, I feel like I'm going to end up getting up in my dream and like getting in the car and like having my day in one of these false awakening things. And I'm gonna be like, that's a problem because like I'm not really awake. So I'm very concerned about this whole thing.
Yeah.
But the uncomfortable part is it's like way too hyper realistic. And every time I have one, it's like so unnervingly realistic and things happen where I'm like, I literally saw in one of them, I was like, oh, I saw like a pair of brown legs like walk up the stairs. And from the exact perspective of where I would have been when I was awake. And so I like asked Julie the next day, I was like, oh yeah, like, well, I was awake for like 1 second because I saw you walk up the stairs. And she was like, I didn't get up until like 20 minutes ago. And I'm like, fucking no way. Like that can't be real. Like it freaked me out so much. But they're weird. Then the first time I ever had one, and first time I had one, and this has never happened again, but this started a trend of me having these, was I was having this false awakening until the last one. I broke the loop of what I was doing, and I like walked to a backyard of a house that was like probably very vaguely reminiscent of Gregory's. But yeah, I like climbed up into a treehouse, and then there was just like 15 other people in a circle being like, yeah, man, we can't wake up either. Like, is this happening to you? Yeah. And it's like, oh, and nobody that I recognize, like I have no recollection of knowing these people outside of it. But I was just like, this is too much. Like I feel this is way too real of an experience. This is like something totally separate from anything I've ever had happen before.
Just a club of people just like trapped in a dream.
Yeah, and like weirdly kind of hereditary vibes in terms of the type of treehouse. Like it wasn't a comfortable experience. Like everybody was like, yeah, we're freaked out. Like what's happening? Like why are we all here?
Oh,
Yeah. And I feel like that's my fever dream. It's like hyper realistic. It's not geometrical but it's sort of a similar thing where, yeah, there's a constant transition that's like, this is not fun. It's not good.
Hyper realistic, like it never gets more realistic. Do you ever wake up in one reality and like think about the last reality you were in?
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
think that shit is fake?
Yeah.
And you wake up
are you like, oh, this
again?
one's like so much more real than that
Exactly.
last one. Okay.
No, I woke up. I had one in my house one time where I woke up and they vary in time lengths too. So the first one is usually pretty short because I'll be having experience. I'm like, doesn't quite make sense. Like I'm definitely dreaming. And then I'll wake up again and then I'll be like, oh, this makes sense. Like I woke up because the last thing was a dream. Like, yeah, now I'm awake. And then I go through that dream a little bit longer until I'm like, oh, fuck, dude, I'm still like not actually awake. But it's like, it's weird. One of them, I like got up and it's like, you start your whole day. It's like, I go to the laundry room, I'm doing my thing. I'm like talking to my mom and I'm like doing all this and it's all normal. It's like nothing even bad is happening. But then I'll hit another cycle and I'll be like, no, like I gotta get up. Like in slow, I was literally trying to flail my arms and yell. Like I was trying to like wake up.
Yeah.
It was weird. And it's weird too, because all my other dreams, I like don't have bad dreams. Like they're very mundane. It's always just a replay of my day. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, yeah, it's literally exactly what I did in the day. And sometimes I'll have interesting ones where it's like, oh, I'm in a totally new landscape, but I'm replaying scenarios from the day, but just in an extremely foreign land.
So the main difference in your fever dreams is just that aspect of reawakening.
Reawakening and an extreme awareness that I am in a dream and I can't wake up from it, and that I am in a loop.
Okay.
You ready for a smooth thought?
I'm ready for a smooth thought. Yeah.
I think I don't know if I fully believe this, but let's take it as a theory.
Okay.
That we teleport out of our brains when we sleep. We go someplace, we do some work that we were supposed to, and then we come back. In that process of teleporting, you go through like a wormhole, and those dreams is right before you get home to your brain, like fall out of the wormhole. And you get and then you get like jutted around and you get closer and closer each time. That's why each layer you're like, this shit's way more real. But in reality, it's like way more of an illusion.
Because usually too, like, because I will say those dreams usually start with something very unrelated that doesn't feel like a fever dream, or it's like it's not that scenario. Like, do you feel like when you have those dreams, does it start in the geometric land, or is that just what you remember because that ends up being the end of your process?
Yeah, it's just recency bias. And that's all I remember in terms of those dreams. But what I do have after those dreams is a fever dream in itself that I'm going to try to describe to you guys, but it's the most difficult thing I've ever had to try to describe.
I'm really excited.
So last time it was about my finger and about losing my finger. But for some reason, like it's about the complexity and like the cell memory that goes into a finger and how incredibly complex my finger is. But for some reason, it's about to get I don't know if it's about to get chopped off, but like something's about to happen to my finger. Or like the idea of to have another finger is so highly improbable in my like weird dream state that it causes this like sense of like panic of like, how do I get another one? If like, do I get another one of these? Like what happens? Like am I flipping a coin? And like, it's just this weird, like absolutely out of body sense of like anxiety during the whole thing. And something about like, I think it goes why I feel like the world's going to end. Cause like, I'm like, the world is so incredibly complex. And like the chances that we're here are like super slim and narrow just out of everything being exactly in place as it is.
Yeah.
And that all relates like back to me freaking out about my finger for some reason.
And is this a level higher than your geometry dream?
I think it's a level of more like socially created thought. I don't know if it's higher or lower.
It's not a fever dream, right? It's just
it's just, I usually only have it when I'm in a fever. And I kind of get it the same mind state when I think the walls are getting really far away from me.
Yeah.
That's never in a fever though. That's usually just like me being super focused and meditated.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's what it almost sounds like, is extreme presence that's like also mixed in with just fragility of reality in general.
Mhm.
There's nothing in our rules of like life or physics or anything that says like this is all here to stay.
Mhm.
Like it started from we don't know what. So it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't necessarily have to be here.
I feel like it's more the opposite. It's like it's definitely gonna leave at some
Mhm.
point.
And there's like an extreme level of loneliness in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like to account for the complexity of the universe and the complexity of my finger, I'm worried that like how would I have any extremity this complex? How would there be another complex solar system full of life?
Mm-hmm.
Like there would be, because the universe is infinite, but it's so like infinitesimally of a small sort of chance that would happen that it's probably so like crazy far away that we
Mhm.
can't even begin to imagine how far away it is.
I feel like what fuels all that is your is fighting with your ego. Like your ego is like it understands how rare the fact you have a finger is,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact you're in a dream, you're closer to the is, and the is like, don't worry about it.
Mhm.
But you're like, wait, I should be worrying about it. It's like that's like you're headed to that place through the wormhole, and you're like, I'm not ready to go.
Yeah,
like I
I'm
think I'll
dragging my
hold
feet.
on to the
Mhm.
finger.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hold on to reality for like half a second.
Because I feel like the is almost trying to show you that it's like your reality is fragile, but like that's fine because like they all are. But it's
Yeah.
like there's a lot of different ones, but each one, yeah, is special and unique, and like you should value it. But all,
Mm.
at the end of the day, it's like no, you just there's other shit going on. You're gonna go have other experiences.
And the fact that it could technically be an instance away from shattering
Mm-hmm.
probably isn't a reason to freak out unless it's something that's very much in your control.
It's weird that half of you is in charge of raging against the dying of the light,
Mm-hmm.
and the other half needs to be connected to like let that shit go at all times. Like you're
Yeah.
always gonna get sucked into the butthole in the sky, so like let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fighting it's gonna produce very unhappy triangles.
I'm I'm interested to if a dream state and the state of mind that you're in when you're in a dream is similar to what after death is, but we just can't it always feels semi uncomfortable being in a dream in one way or the other because it feels foreign.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just we're just in awareness going through a very different medium of reality than we are when we're awake.
Mhm.
And I feel like when you die, it is like almost like a rebirth thing. But if you're in that state for long enough and you never wake up from that state, at some point I would figure your awareness starts to understand it and become comfortable with it and understand how to navigate it. And it starts to feel very normal and just real. But it's just different from this thing we're experiencing now.
Yeah.
But it's almost like sleeping and dreaming we just never get used to it because it's such a small interaction. Like when you're born here, like you don't know what the fuck reality is. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
a baby feels a lot like it's in a dream when it's in our reality because they just have no time to get used to it. Like everything is new, everything is completely foreign and unimaginable.
And
Just
you're
like a
attaching
dream.
it to like a physical body, all these experiences. And when you're in a dream, you're not in that.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Yeah.
the way you perceive the world is going to be different because our body has limits, our eyes have limits,
Mm-hmm.
but like not in dreams. In dreams, like you said, you don't talk in your dreams. You communicate with people telepathically.
Right.
Like that's something that your biology is going to hold you back from in real life. But in a dream, because of that, I'm sure there's like thousands of other rules that just go out the window.
And it's weird that we only can look at dreams from ourselves in this reality.
That's why
Mhm.
they're so hard to describe.
Yeah.
So we might be like, it's really uncomfortable in a dream. And it's like, what's really uncomfortable transitioning out of a dream or
Mhm.
trying to cram a dream into a thought that an ego can understand.
Well, I almost wonder too if part of the discomfort and misunderstanding when you're in a dream state that maybe wouldn't be there if you were dead is your brain activity. Because even when you're
Mm.
asleep, your brain activity is still, going off. So your brain is trying to make sense of it and trying to formulate that reality even when you're sleeping. But if you're dead and your brain's not working and you're just a conscious experience, like there may not be that level of questioning or attempting to understand that is the thing causing it to be uncomfortable. It might just be like, well, this is just it is.
Right.
So there's no questioning or fighting it. It's just this is what's happening.
Does the ego die with the body then?
I would say
I
yeah.
think so, yeah.
I hope so.
Well, I feel like the isness, we all have the same isness in us.
Mhm.
Like the isness is all one thing. And your isness in terms of, I would argue that the isness is a consciousness is very, very like, unimaginably big and spread apart. So your pocket of isness that is, your ego is most closely communicating with may not be the same part of the isness that my ego is closely communicating with. If you want to think about it like a brain,
it's on like a different
we're in
corner of like an amoeba.
Yeah, we're in two different pockets, but it's all the same thing.
Some people are in very similar pockets, and I'd like to think we're all in pretty similar pockets. This is a little pocket.
This is a little pocket.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that at work today. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna go to a little pocket later.
Yeah.
Kind of nice being in a pocket.
I don't know if we talked about it either. I really do like the metaphor for if we're talking about the isness being one thing of, I should know if it was like a Buddhist thing. I think it may have been.
Like the web?
Yeah, the web.
I think
where
that is
essentially there's arguments for both. Is consciousness the strings between the intersecting points, or is consciousness the intersecting points? But either way, that's like an easy way to visualize. Like, let's just call it each intersecting point is a particular point of awareness for a particular person. So it's like you can have your point here and somebody else's point can be way over here, but ultimately you're all part of the same web. Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna at some point maybe, Gregory, need to circle back around to your dreams to complete this dream trio, because I know you're having crazy dreams and you're just holding them back from us.
Fever dreams are gnarlier because your body is affecting your brain, which is affecting your ability to like in radio with the is.
Well, it's affecting too, like the way that your brain is sleeping, right? Where I'm saying in a dream, the reason your dream is the dream and not just isness is because your brain's trying to make sense of it. But if your brain's like not able to make sense of it, then it's probably way closer to regular real isness.
Yeah.
And that probably activates like a fear trigger in your brain because it's so far outside of the experiences you've had before that part of your brain lights up as like the back end. Well, the rest of our brain's not making very good sense of it. So let's kick this part in because usually that's pretty good at hyper focusing.
Hi, welcome to the Smooth Brain Art Gallery.
So I feel like this one kind of hits this dream conversation in like a funny way. Because if we're all connected through the is and through the ego, like this guy and this animal have to definitely be connected through this is. And there's something like binding these two together. Kind of gets on like the spirit animal plane.
One thing I've been learning a lot about trying to see how art makes you feel rather than what art is trying to tell you. Because they're both important, right? Like this was drawn because they had an idea. But then it's also like, how do you just raw feel? And those are, for me right now, very different.
Well, what's interesting to me here too is like the human in this is extremely structured.
Yeah.
And the animal is way more abstract and flowy and sort of.
Yeah, the human's a lot more
isness.
geometric in this person than the.
Yeah. And I would argue an animal probably lives in a state much closer to the isness, where like a human consciousness is trying to structure things and make things more geometric and create, something that's buildable, where this thing is clearly just trying to feel it out.
There's
like
a lot
it's just
more
connected.
Flow and everything and how it's created, I guess.
And it's almost like the person's having to make the effort to make that connection. And this is just connected to it.
Because this person's blowing out some smoke. Dude.
Person's blowing out some smoke.
Effort here.
And this thing's ready to just receive it.
Yeah.
Like it's got its eyeballs locked in. Like, oh yeah, you're blowing the right type of smoke my way.
There's a real certain kind of like intensity with it. Really.
This is gorgeous.
Yeah.
The longer I look at it, I'm like, that is a mountain lion?
Yeah,
that mountain line's off the charts.
Beautiful blue eye. Shout out to wesbro art. You can follow him on Instagram at wes_bro_art. Wesbro Shear, that's his name. And yeah, I met him at Shebang. And I was just gacked off to gooms, dude. And I was just staring at a bunch of the art in that corner by that mountain that Max put on his Instagram. And I was just kind of scoping through it and all these dudes on the couch. I was like, hey guys, how's it going? I'm like, is your art? He's like, yeah. I'm like, yo, this fucking rips, dude.
I would throw, like, if I'm going to throw a technical breakdown of it, I'm seeing him with like the yellow glow of drugs. I'm seeing him exhale, and then this is his vision. So So this is all like in his own mind as a reflection of like what's happening that we wouldn't be able to see visually. This is a little side thought, is the headband being right over the third eye and being such a complex color. Interesting. I wonder if there's any correlation or if that's just where you put a headband.
I think it's definitely where you put a headband.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
I'm not saying there can't be a third eye behind that headband.
Well, and then this thing's got a third eye.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Straight up.
And it's pulling information from the ears and the eyes and like essentially where the brain would be.
And the smoke is the funny thing because, well, I guess it's not the funny thing. I guess it's just the delineation of where we go from his very geometric plane. Not super geometric, but like relatively geometric plane to it becomes a lot more flowier and a lot more of like a different style.
Well, Gregory, to your point, it's almost like he's like exhaling and having a vision of his own isness.
Yes.
Where it's like there's a recognition that his physical body is very structured and the reality he's in is very geometric, but he is connected to something more akin to this, where it is more flowy.
Because that's ones and zeros, and that's analog. Like that shit is just waves.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's got a triangle that's connected to the third eye the same way this dude's got like the same type of blue triangles. So that I think that maybe is showing at least it's the same vibe, if not the same thing.
Well, I think it's basically showing awareness. Like your third eye is awareness. Like it's connected to all the things that make this animal aware.
Yeah. It's funny though that like focus is so important because you're a duality, right? Like you're part of the only thing that exists, the one, but you personally are a duality. Like the part that thinks and the part that is like separate. So how those two glass elements focus is how you perceive, like if you're more is based and you get to see all of the web at once, you're like, this rips. But if you're more ego based and you see all the web, you're like, what the fuck is happening? I don't like this.
Yeah.
And the reverse is also true of like, I don't know what the reverse is. It's, but
This is smooth brain, man.